Okay, so I had section 1 of chapter 10. The first section talks about testing a hypothesis about SAT scores. Investigators hope to reject the hypothesis that nothing special is happening, which is called null hypothesis. Hypothesized sampling distribution. If the null hypothesis proves to be true, the distribution of sample means will be centered around the average. When the hypothesized mean is equal to the average, the subsequent graph is called the hypothesized sampling distribution. It just goes into verifying the standard error of the mean, which is this equation here. It talks about the shape of the hypothesized sampling distribution in this context and how it should approximate a normal curve. The null hypothesis is tentatively assumed to be true. It must be tested by determining whether one observed sample mean qualifies as a common outcome or rare outcome, and how it applies to the hypothesized sampling distribution. Common outcomes. An observed sample mean qualifies as a common outcome if the difference between its value and that of the hypothesized population mean is small enough to be viewed as a probable outcome under the null hypothesis. A common outcome signifies a lack of evidence that, with respect to the null hypothesis, something special is happening in the underlying population, and because there's no compelling reason for rejecting the null hypothesis is retained. On the other hand, you have rare outcomes, which an observed sample mean qualifies as a rare outcome if the difference between its value and the hypothesized population mean is too large to be reasonably viewed as a probable outcome under the null hypothesis. A rare outcome signifies that, with respect to the null hypothesis, something special is probably happening in the underlying population, and because there are grounds for suspecting the null hypothesis, it is rejected. We get into boundaries for common and rare outcomes. If the observed sample mean is between the set boundaries, it would be considered a common outcome. If the observed sample mean is not between the set boundaries, it would be considered a rare outcome. Just continues on to this page.